My name is Kiran Deosingh, and I want to share a little bit about my journey and how I got to this point. So, when I was about 17 or 18 years old, I created my first software application for my aunt's small business. And the purpose of that was to actually help her manage the registration of her customers and to manage a portfolio of some of her services. But the skills I got from that, it then drove me to create, and it was actually one of my final year projects, the development of a mobile application to help parents monitor the driving habits of their young drivers. After I kept getting more and more experience, I worked with a lot of small and medium sized businesses to automate and create a lot of applications and systems to help manage their businesses. But why am I telling you guys this? This is because what I've learned along the way, the biggest challenge that I see small businesses having is that they have a lot of manual paper based processes. And because they operate this way, they lack they risk being left behind due to the lack of opportunities, due to the lack of competitiveness, and due to the lack of innovation. And because of this, sometimes customers may want to go to another business that does things probably a lot faster, a lot more cost effective to the customer. What I want to touch on today is the smart use of ICT for SMEs. And this effectively means allowing your business to operate a lot more seamlessly, electronically, and a lot faster using digital technologies. You'll all realize that when you improve on your different processes, that you will operate a lot faster, you will save time and money, you'll reduce a lot of your paper-based processes, and you'll be able to enter so much more markets that you didn't know was possible before. So, before I go to my next slide, who here loves food? Show of hands. Everybody. I love food as well. And behind every good meal is a recipe. I want to share with you guys today my digital transformation recipe. So this recipe allows you to understand more than anything your existing processes in your company and transform from one point to another. It involves four main steps, starting from identifying the processes all the way down to choosing the right technology to improve your business. So I want to start with identifying your process. So what we'd like to do is actually get people from the company together, grab a group of friends from your colleagues and workplace, and grab a pen and a paper and a whiteboard, sit down in a room and try to understand what are all the different processes involved in my organization. You'll realize that some people may think they understand everything that's happening in the company, but then some persons may know other aspects of the company that you didn't know of. So you start writing down all the different processes involved. Now, on the right hand side of the screen here, you will see an example of one of the processes in this company. This customer wanted to find out about some items that were in stock. This is a sales pipeline. So what happens here is that the customer actually calls the business directly, and then the sales representative will actually answer the phone, take the information down from the customer, and they will find out if it's in stock. They will actually hang up the phone call, go back, check with the stock taking team, and then they will either alert them if it's in stock or not. And then what will happen, maybe a few minutes later or a few hours later, they'll return the call back to the customer. Now, the customer at that point in time may or may not be interested anymore. Now, keeping that in mind and looking at that process, I'm sure you could already identify some things that were wrong with it and some things that could be improved. So keep that in mind while I introduce you to this next case study. So back in 2012, there was a shipping company, a very popular shipping company, that started relying heavily on digital tech transformation. This company realized that over time, their field became so competitive that a lot of their customers were moving away to their competitors. Their customers felt like they were getting faster service. It was probably cheaper. They also realized that their internal employees weren't as happy. So they realized that they needed to make some significant changes within their internal processes. Similarly, they actually wrote down some of their processes that they thought could have been improved. And the one that I want to focus on today is delivery routing. So you can see here on this diagram, it's essentially a map showing a manual delivery routing process. How it worked is that the drivers were the one responsible for mapping the routing of the delivery. The drivers would make unnecessary decisions. You may see how it's very haphazard looking, that they will make one route twice, they will double drive, and it was very taxing on them. Now, what I also want you guys to take away from this is that in addition to writing down their processes, they thought of actually drawing it out to visualize how exactly it works. Now, that actually brings me to the second point in the recipe, getting visual. So it's not all about just writing down the processes. Get the same group of people together again and start drawing out exactly how you think that process works. Pick out one of the main processes that you think could actually be improved on. So, for example, at Rams Logistics, we use a tool very often, probably every day, called a swim lane diagram. And what a swim lane diagram is effectively a big flow chart that's separated into different lanes that shows the different departments that are responsible for a part of the process. But once you actually start documenting and drawing out how your process works, sometimes you may realize two people in different teams have different ideas about how the process works. And when you brainstorm together, you'll be able to finalize how that process currently actually works. Now, I mentioned that we use a swim lane diagram, but what I want to show and tie it back to the delivery process example is a simple flowchart of how that manual process works. So it's all started with the couriers actually picked up the packages at the facility. Now, I mentioned that the couriers were the one responsible for creating the manual routes. So they will actually have a list, a physical paper list, and they will look at the first item on the list and just drive to that location. Now, when they go to the location, the customer may or may not be home, and they basically made a waste run. And then they kept going on to the other customer on the list. Over time, that made the customers very unhappy. It made the drivers feel very overworked and taxed, and the company started spending more and more unnecessary money. What I want you guys to start thinking about is when you start drawing out your processes, you may immediately start picking up on things that you can improve and will start churning in your mind, maybe this is not the correct way of doing something. That brings us to the third step. Can it be improved? You need to start looking at your process and ask yourself, are all of these things necessary? Can some of these things be automated? Do we need this much information captured? Are there any bottlenecks in this particular part of the system? For example, let's say you have a particular registration system where a customer actually has to come in and fill out a long, lengthy form. That's very taxing on the customer. Maybe that could be automated. There's a lot of free online tools today, Google Forms, Microsoft Forms, that could actually be used to automate and replace some of those manual processes. Now, if we tie it back to the same delivery example, before you saw the delivery were routed manually by the drivers. This particular company saw the need for improvement and they invested heavily in machine learning. Now, what this particular system did, it followed the drivers along their pathway. It took in external factors, factors about weather, about traffic, and it started eventually recommending to them the most ideal route to take to get to their customers and to their final destination. As we can see, this significantly reduced the length of time it took to make deliveries, on average about 30 miles per trip. Customers were a lot happier, employees were a lot happier, and overall, the company saved a lot of time and money and was very successful because of this. I don't want you guys to think that because this company invested into machine learning, that is the way to do digital transformation. Their choice of technology was machine learning. But on our final step to digital transformation, it's to choose the right technology. Now, it could be as simple as creating an online form to automate a manual registration process. It may be that you guys have an appointment system that you have to physically call somebody to make an appointment. There's a lot of free tools available online today that you could actually create an online appointment system. It may mean that you want to create a website that you could actually reach more customers online to sell your products online versus a physical store. It may mean that you need a combination of these things. But what I want you guys to understand and take away is that because you now documented the process and went along this journey, you now have all the tools, data, and information necessary to make a smart decision to transform your business. Now, would you believe that this company was UPS? Yes, UPS is still one of the most successful global leading supply chain and logistics company today. When they realized that they needed improvement, they all had the same mindset for digital transformation. And up to today, they still have that same mindset. And it makes them a very successful company. Just to tie it back all together, some of the benefits that we mentioned, it significantly reduced a lot of the operational costs. All or most of the manual data entry was reduced. When you reduce manual data entry, you also reduce the amount of errors that occur. You reduce your paper usage. You reduce your carbon footprint. There's a lot more happier customers, a lot more happier employees, and overall, you save quite a number of time and money. And just to bring it back to the main point for the smart use of ICT, over the last few years, ICT uptake has significantly increased, significantly. And what it did, it allowed a lot of SMEs the opportunity to partake in global markets. And now more than ever, I think it's a time for each and every one of us to digitally transform our business. Thank you for your time.